nice to have you. If everyone could go ahead and mute themselves if you're not speaking, that way we just don't get some background noise. My name is Alessandra Birding. I am the Associate Director of Alumni Relations Programs and Services here at Trinity. Also on the call, we have Stephanie Melvin, who is the Director of Alumni Relations. We're really excited to have you all here today and have our wonderful presenter, Jean. Thank you very much for being here. A couple of housekeeping things. Like I mentioned, if you're not speaking, please go ahead and put your Zoom on mute just so we don't get some background noise. This will be recorded, so we will have it up on our website probably within a week or so. So if you're looking for extra resources or want to view it again, it will be up on our website. During the presentation, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and put them in the chat. Stephanie will be monitoring the chat. Jean may ask you during the presentation to unmute yourselves if you want to speak. Just follow what Jean is asking. And then once you're done speaking, if you can please put yourself back on mute, that would be fantastic. Outside of that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Jean. You all know her. She's fantastic. Jean Campbell, her licenses are LCSW, SEP, CET3, and TEP, has been bringing groups of people together to heal for more than 2.5 decades. As co-founder and CEO of Braveheart Retreats, she combines her vast knowledge in psychodrama and sociometry, somatic experiencing, positive psychotherapy, and coaching to provide personal growth workshops and intensives, leadership retreats, and training and personal growth workshops for helping professionals. She is committed to creating safe spaces for healing and growth and trust, and what we can't do alone, we can do together. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jean, and I will be sharing my screen in one moment. Jean, you are on mute.
I just realized that. Thank you, Alessandra and Stephanie. Thanks for inviting me to do this. I'm really delighted to be here, and such a lovely surprise to see so many faces that I know. A lot of memories connected to Trinity along those lines. So we're here to talk about calming and grounding. As a psychotherapist, I mean, gosh, 10 months into this, it's a lot. And I've been trying to share as many tools with people as I can to help them cope. And hopefully these are tools that will carry on into other difficult times you might have in your life, because life kind of does this. It's not all smooth sailing. So Alessandra's controlling the slides, so you'll hear me invite her to go to the next one. So please do. And so I just wanted to find a short video that might capture what it's been like, at least now, 10 months into it. There will be subtitles, so you may have to read somewhat quickly. And also you may want to turn your volume down just a little bit. So go for it, Alessandra. Oh, we can't hear it because you're on mute. Let's try that again. If you can unmute yourself.
I apologize. Sorry about that.
No worries. Let's go back to the beginning.
¿Qué más pues gordos? Soy María José. Esta canción la compuse y se llama Cuarentena.
So you can go on to the next slide. I have been finding it's just so important to find humor in the midst of all of this. Some of you have probably seen that video with the school teacher too, who was talking, and she has her little ukulele and she does something very similar where she talks about this song that she wrote and then she lets out this big old scream. So the truth is we've all been out of balance. I mean, we've had layered on top of life on life's terms. We've got a pandemic, then we had politics, we had an election, we've got unemployment. I mean, we've got so much that's going on in our world right now. And so just a little bit of education about what typically will happen when things go out of balance. So when we experience a threat, the first thing that we want to turn to is what we call social engagement. So seeing the faces of people that are safe, hearing the voices of people that are safe, feeling the touch from people that are safe in our lives will calm down our nervous systems. And so we are having to override that in the midst of this pandemic. I mean, I'm living by myself. I've had very limited contact in person with people for the last 10 months. I remember the first time I went to a doctor's appointment, probably 3 or 4 months into the pandemic. I had melanoma about a year ago, and I was getting a skin check, and the dermatologist started touching my skin. And I said to her, could you just slow down and kind of linger there for a minute, because I was missing physical touch. So when we can't go to social engagement, we go to what's called fight or flight, which is probably very familiar to all of you. We either want to run away or we want to fight. The body mobilizes to do that so that we can survive. The term fawn is a relatively unknown term, but it is an important one to think about. When people are threatened in some way, they often go to this kind of demure, compliant place for survival as well. And I've been finding in some of the folks that I'm working with that they're being kind of overly sweet. Meanwhile, there's lots bubbling underneath. And so it's another coping mechanism. And then when we can't go to any of those, we go to freeze. And for most of us, myself included, I've had periods where it's just, I'm in shutdown, whether that's sitting in front of a TV watching 6 straight hours of Netflix, or it's sleeping a lot in the course of a day. For a lot of people, there's 2 kinds of freeze. You can have a physiological freeze where you physically can't move, or you can have a psychological freeze where you dissociate, where you check out. And I've talked to people who've had both during this time. And I want to really stress the fight, flight, fawn, or freeze. They're all brilliant coping mechanisms that we developed to survive, and they are helping us survive this pandemic and so many other things. I don't know how many of you are actually living in the district currently, but I've talked to a number of colleagues who are living actually quite close to the Capitol and the White House. And I know, Alessandra, you're right there in the district, and I think Stephanie's in Maryland. But the anxiety around January 6th is still in the city, right? The inaugural, there was that heightened security. And I mean, I know, having lived through 9/11 in New York and the months after that, it's really unnerving to have, National Guards people on the street with enormous rifles, and all of that is going to catch up with us in our system. And then over the last couple of days with the impeachment trial, there's been a lot of video. So there's been a lot of recurring anxiety and a lot of activation that's come up for people. So as we move forward, I really want to stress that the tools that I'm offering, you can try some of them, you can try all of them. Not all of them are going to work for everybody, but I want to offer you a whole bunch of them so you can find some that work for you. So let's go on to the next slide. So we rely, and typically this is done in person, although it can be done on the phone, it can be done on Zoom, but this term co-regulation, we've probably all had this experience. I know for me, when I'm anxious, if I'm with somebody who's calm, my system will settle and I can get calmer. By the same token, if I'm relatively settled and calm, if I'm around somebody who's highly anxious, it's really easy to get pulled into that energy. So in this pandemic, at this very challenging time, it's been harder to get that kind of co-regulation with people. Although I'm pretty good about picking up the phone or getting on Zoom to help me regulate my nervous system when it gets overly active, or even when I go into freeze. So I really want to stress the importance of contact, even if it's just by phone with other people. So let's go on to the next one. So as I said, we're overriding our nervous systems out of necessity, and that's one of the hardest things, because typically it feels safe to go connect with safe people, but we can't now in many cases. And so it's so counterintuitive that it actually can be really disruptive in that sense too. Because we don't know, is it safe, is it not safe? So we're going to look at these tools to help us ground, settle, and regulate. So let's go on to the next one. I just wanted to show this slide to, and you don't have to be a physicist to understand this, but we as physical beings are energetic beings, and we pick up on each other's energy. And so I have really been recommending to people during this time to be mindful of who you want to be in contact with. And for people who dysregulate your system, to really limit the amount of time that you're spending with them or talking with them, and to find other ways to calm your system, whether that's going out for a walk with your dog, whether that's going out in nature, whether that's painting, whatever it is, to help settle that. But just to be mindful of that, and to, you know, a friend of mine always used to say, go where it's warm. So when I'm thinking about who I want to be connecting with, where is it warm? Where is it safe? Where is it going to help me settle versus getting activated? So next slide, please. So I want to introduce you to a really simple technique called orienting. So when a threat comes in, we move into what's called defensive orienting, right? So say we hear a sound. Our body immediately wants to turn to see what that is. Our eyes go in that direction. Our senses get heightened, right? And so if I hear a noise outside of my place and I turn and I can orient, that's the term basically meaning to look around, to orient. If I see that it's not a threat, so say for example, I hear a loud noise and I look outside and I realize a delivery person dropped a big box, right? There might be that initial startle, but once I can orient to it, my system will calm down. We call that, then I can move back into exploratory orienting, just looking around the way that we normally do. We do it all the time, we don't realize it, but it's a survival instinct, right? We're constantly tracking to see, is it safe, right? So if you could click on Alessandra. So I'm gonna invite you just to orient to your space. And when I say, look, I'm gonna move my glasses up because I'm nearsighted, or farsighted rather. So when I say looking around slowly, I'm gonna show you the pace I'm talking about. I mean, literally this slowly. So I'm taking in, like I've got a tall plant over there, I'm taking in the color green, and then I'm looking over at a painting on the wall, and I'm continuing to scan around the room very slowly. But it's also important, the head turning is actually important, which I'll just comment on in a moment. So I'm just going to invite you, just orient to your space right now. And I'm going to be directive when I do it. As you slowly look around, I want you to find something that's pleasing to your eyes. And when you do, you can even just hang there for a moment and just take that in as you continue to look around. And when you're orienting, you might also be listening for sounds or noticing any smells, like if there's something yummy cooking on the stove right now. And I just want you to notice, is there any difference in your nervous system, in your body? And Alessandra, I wonder if you could take us off the screen share, say that one 10 times fast. And then just if anybody wants to share any difference that they noticed, you can just unmute yourself and just comment on it. So I see Paulina saying her breathing slowed down. She just mentioned that in the chat. Anybody else want to comment? Any difference you noticed? Connie, did you want to say something? You just unmuted yourself.
Okay, sure. I was wondering if I was supposed to write or say something, but
either way, it's fine.
Okay. Well, right behind this laptop, my sister, you know, you're seeing in back of me, but in front of me, my sister hung some pictures of mine. And so I was looking at them, and it was great.
Good. When you say great, what did you notice? Is there a calmer sense? Is your breathing changed?
Oh, yes. Yes, I felt I was smiling. I was feeling gratitude.
Yep.
I'm with other people also while I'm doing this. So I have a feeling of a sense of togetherness.
Yes.
And belonging in this space with everyone.
Beautiful. Thank you, Connie. Anybody else want to comment on that? It's so simple. I'm sorry, somebody else just started to talk? Yes, no? Okay. It's so simple and yet it's so profound. every time I orient to my space, it brings me back into the present moment, and I can feel myself calm down a little bit. So in the course of your day, if you feel like you're getting any kind of discomfort or dysregulation, just take a moment and just look around, slowly look around. The head turning, actually, without getting too technical, we have two parts to our nervous system. We have what's called the sympathetic nervous system, which is like the gas. It gets us moving. And then we have the parasympathetic, which is like the brakes, and it calms us down. So moving the head side to side brings the parasympathetic nervous system online. So it's really simple to do. So let's go back to the slides, Alessandra, please. One of the things when I was training in somatic experiencing, which is a trauma resolution modality, my teacher, if you can actually bring up that last piece on this particular slide, my teacher at the end of the day, you know, often teachers will say, okay, see you tomorrow. He always used to say, orient to pleasure. And the first couple of times he did that, I thought, what the heck is he talking about? And now I really get it. Like when I look around my space, I'm looking for things that will bring me pleasure. Like right outside my window, I have a hummingbird feeder. And because I live in Southern California, there are hummingbirds there all year round, which is amazing, right? So sometimes when I'm frustrated, I'm on my computer and I'm frustrated with a proposal I'm writing or whatever it is, I just take a moment and I just look at the hummingbird feeder. So that's orienting to something that's going to bring me joy or pleasure. So in the course of your day, start to look for those things that will bring you pleasure. When I was in positive psychology training, we had an assignment every day to look for the best moment of our day. And I was in a cohort of 6 people as a smaller group within that larger training. And we had a group text. And every day we would text everybody else what our best moment of the day was. It could be a video, like I often would send them videos. I'd go to the beach and I'd just stand up on this cliff near my house and just take a video of the cranes flying by or the surfers in the water. And I would just send that to everybody. And it's like I had a positivity boost from it and everybody else did. Somebody else might text, oh, I read my daughter a bedtime story and I just cuddled with her and I had a beautiful moment. So whatever it is, that's like orienting to pleasure. So I'll invite you to bring that into your daily practice if it fits for you. So now we're going to talk about VUing. So Dr. Peter Levine created this modality called somatic experiencing. And so you can just click them all, Alessandra. So the way this works, and again, this is going to help bring the parasympathetic system online. And I'll demonstrate it and then we can do it together. So I'll take a deep breath in, and then on the exhale, I'm going to make a VU sound. And it's meant to sound like a foghorn and go all the way through the breath. And it's not a VU up here, it's a VU down here. It's a low register. And ideally, I'm feeling it resonating in my body. So I'll just do one just to demo it. I was a music minor and studied voice at Trinity, which is why I can have such a long breath. So let's just do, Alessandra, can you take us off the share screen? And let's do it together. If you want to unmute yourself, you're welcome to, because again, if we go to that social engagement concept, hearing other people doing it with you can be quite powerful as well. So we're all just going to take a deep breath in and then VU on the exhale. And let's do another one and really feel it resonate in your belly. Anybody want to comment on what they noticed with that? If you start laughing when you do it, it's okay too. Some people do when they first start doing it. Anybody want to comment on that?
Not being a music major, I got the resonating in my mouth.
Great.
That's okay.
That's fine. And did you notice any difference, Nancy, when you did?
Not particularly.
Okay, that's fine. Did somebody else start to talk?
Yes, I felt an immediate relaxation when I completed it. It was
Wonderful.
like, great.
Wonderful.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. I usually do this in groups of 3. Oh, Bernadette, did you want to share something?
I found it calming. Yeah. So it's sort of like, I guess, singing when you're singing along to a song, but
Exactly.
this is different. It's more calming. Yeah.
Exactly. You know, I have a dear friend who's a yoga therapist, and like me, he's done a lot of work in the field of addiction recovery. And we've talked a lot about why so many people smoke. And he said, you know, people don't feel calmer because of the cigarette. They feel calmer because of the deep breathing, right? When you think about, it's really the deep breathing. And so VUing also invites that deep breathing. I typically do these in groups of 3. I do it as part of my morning meditation. And I also will do it throughout the day, right? If I'm feeling particularly activated. I have people I've taught this to who do it with their husband, wife, or their partner. They do it with their kids. They do it with their grandkids. Like if it can also, when you think about that co-regulation, what's really powerful to know is that if a whole group breathes together and or VUs together, it actually will affect everybody else's nervous system. So I have a student of mine who has a grandchild who can get dysregulated really easily. And so what they do is everybody else in the family, when the kid starts to lose it, everybody else in the family will VU, and the child's system calms down because he's picking up on that regulation, right? So if you need help getting co-regulated, you can invite other people, you can teach them how to do this and invite them to do it with you. And that might help settle your nervous system too. I know I'm really not a fan of flying. And so when I get into turbulence, well, not when I get into it, when the plane gets into turbulence, I will sit and VU the whole time. And nobody knows I'm doing it because the engines are so loud they can't hear me, but I know I'm doing it and my system settles. I do a visualization where I imagine I'm in an old truck with bad shocks on a dirt road, and I VU and my system just settles. So I'd invite you to use that. Don't bother going to the next slide because I'm going to teach it first, Alessandra, and then we'll go to it. So the next one is a variation on the VU, but it's a way to move anger out of the system. So it's called the VU roar. We tend to hold anger in our jaw. For those of you who are TMJ people, I've worn a night guard for a very long time. So in the VU roar, it's the same kind of thing. I'll take a deep breath in, I'll start to VU, and then I'm going to alternate it with opening the jaw, opening and closing the jaw like a roaring animal. So I'll demo it for you. And people often laugh when they do this, but I'll tell you, laughter is a fear release. It is a discharge. So another thing I've been doing during this pandemic is seeking out things that will make me laugh, which has really helped, like real belly laughing. But let me demo the VU roar for you. So again, it's a deep breath in. VU. So you can alternate it in any way you want. You might want to do 3 or 4 roars and then come back to the VU. You may want to do 1 roar. There's no right or wrong way to do this. And again, if you start to laugh when you do it, that's fine too, because it will help to discharge. So we're going to do the VU roar together. You do it at whatever pace feels right for you. And when you do it, really let your jaw get involved. You can show your teeth, whatever works for you. There's no right or wrong way to do this. So deep breath in. VU. wind up coughing when I do this a lot. And so you can just kind of check in with your jaw and see if you notice any difference, or notice if there's any difference in your system. For some people, if they've been in a freeze, this is actually something that can help them feel alive again. So anybody want to comment on that exercise?
For me, I didn't realize that my jaw needed popping very badly because it just popped
There you go.
4 times on both sides.
Yep, there you go. Yeah, I have a student who does this with her kids. The kids love it. They think it's a game, but I got to tell you, it really works for everybody. She actually sometimes does it in the car where the kids are in their car seats in the back, and she'll turn the mirror so they can't see her face. And she's like, and the kids just think it's funny, and everybody's discharging energy. So it can be really helpful to do as well. Any other comments that anybody wants to?
I liked the VU. I didn't like doing the roar.
Okay, that's okay. Do you want to say why, Lori?
I don't know why. I just, it disrupted. I've done deep breathing for years.
Yep.
And I liked adding the VU, but suddenly the roar seemed to disrupt everything I'm used to doing. Maybe I'll try it a couple more times. But
next time you feel agitated or annoyed at something,
yeah.
Maybe try it then and see if it helps.
Okay.
Again, as I said, there's going to be some of these exercises that work, some of them don't. Take what you like and leave the rest, as we
I'll
said.
keep the VU.
Great. I'm going to teach you some more. So I want to be really mindful. I'm not commenting on you when I say this. I'm making a general statement. But for some people who have a really hard time accessing anger, or they're uncomfortable with it, they're not going to like the VU roar. So even if they do just a little, right, a little like, that can help them. But again, if it doesn't work for you, let it go. No worries. So let's bring the screen share up again, please. So we can go past the VUing for roar, I think is the next one. That VU roar is actually going to get the sympathetic nervous system, like I said, if you're in a freeze, it will actually help discharge the anger, because a lot of people have been shoving their anger down. They've been shoving their frustration down, and they've been using other things like food and alcohol and all kinds of other things just to mask it. And this can help discharge it. So let's go into the next slide, please. So this might be a better one for you, Lori, or for other people. Another way to release anger without it being so activating is just to drop your jaw and soften your tongue. And let's just take a moment and do that. And I notice when I do that, my shoulders dropped a little. I feel like I'm more aligned in my spine. I feel like I'm not sitting forward and sort of at attention. I kind of settled in a little bit. As you said, Alessandra, sometimes we don't even realize how much tension's living in our jaw. So just doing that can again, it'll drop me into the present moment, and I can just be with my jaw and my tongue and just settle for a few minutes. So let's move on to the next one. So grounding. So I'm trained in Chinese medicine. I'm not an acupuncturist. I'm not a shiatsu therapist, but I've done a lot of training in it over the years. And fear lives in the bladder and the kidneys. So I've noticed during this time, a lot of people have had more bladder infections. They've had more kidney infections or kidney stones. And so a lot of times when people go to, when they're in fear, they tend to pull their feet up off the ground, right? They'll curl into a fetal position, or they just want to curl in. And so it can really help to put your feet flat on the ground if you're in a sense of overwhelm. And one of the things I like to do with that is to move my feet back and forth on the carpet or the floor or whatever it is. I actually have my feet on a footstool. but just to move them back and forth and back and forth. So I'm just going to invite you to just take a moment and just slowly move, alternating your feet back and forth, and just notice the surface, notice your feet, notice any sensations that come up. Do it slowly, really slowly. There you go. And just be with that. Yeah. And see what you notice. See if you notice any sense of feeling more grounded or calmer or more present in the moment. If you are living with someone or are safe to touch them and you're okay touching each other's feet, I mean, you can have socks on, obviously. This point on the bottom of the feet, every meridians are just little rivers of energy that flow through the body. And we end up in pain or in dis-ease when those rivers of energy get blocked in some way. So the kidney points come all the way from the bottom of the feet all the way up to the top of the head. So that point on the bottom of the feet is called the kidney 1 point. Excuse me. You can actually hold that on somebody's feet, or if their feet are on the ground, you can just place your hands on top of their feet to help them feel more grounded. Or you can put something under your feet. Like sometimes I'll put a soft stone under that point on my feet and just feel that pressure on my feet to help me ground. So again, take what you like, leave the rest. I'm also noticing a number of you are yawning a lot. When you're yawning a lot, that actually means also that your parasympathetic nervous system is coming online. It means the system is settling. You may also find that you're belching a lot or that you're gurgling a lot. Those are all really good signs, because when we're in that high activation, we can't rest and our body won't digest. So when we start to settle again, we go to the rest and digest to be able to
I'm
yawn.
glad you know that it's not because you're boring and putting
No,
us to
of course
sleep.
not. No, I don't. Even if it were, I don't take it personally, Sue, so don't worry about it. It's actually a really good sign particularly when we're working on trauma resolution. When somebody starts yawning or gurgling or belching, sometimes I actually end up belching with them because we're in such high co-regulation, and I'm not shy about it either. So, okay, let's move on to the next slide, please. So I want to do them one at a time, if you don't mind. So the first one is a way to hug yourself. So you're going to take your right hand and you're going to put it under your left armpit, right? And then you're going to wrap your other arm around. And I'm just going to invite you to just sit back, ideally with your feet flat on the ground, and just be with this sensation. And it can sometimes help to imagine that you're being hugged by somebody who is safe in your world, even if they're not still alive. And just a couple of more deep breaths in and out. And one more. And then you can open your eyes and release one arm and then the other. And anybody want to comment on that? How that was for them?
Jean, this is Kathy.
Yeah, hi, Kathy.
Jumping. Hi. Actually, the first word that came to me, or what I felt, was a sense of my own strength. I
Love it.
There was
Go
something.
ahead, finish your sentence. It's okay. Go ahead.
There was something about, I think there was a sense of comfort to it, but there was something, I don't know, just that's the word that popped in my head, strength. And I was surprised by that, but I kind of felt like the core, you could just I'm like, oh, I feel strong here. There was just something, that's what came to me. So I just wanted to share that.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Mhm.
I love that you allowed that and stayed with it instead of pushing it away. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing, if we go back to the meridians for a moment, right here in the underarm is a point for what's called the heart constrictor, which is the area around the heart, which tends to either get constricted or expanded. So a lot of people, when they do this exercise, they feel like they can come more fully into their heart. So let's go on. If you can just click to the next one. So another is to put your hand on your heart and then another hand on your bladder. Now your bladder lives right above your pubic bone. It's not your belly. It's not your belly button. It's below the belly button. It's kind of like putting your hand in your lap. And again, we're just going to sit here with this for a minute and just breathe. There you go. And let yourself come on back. As I mentioned earlier, the bladder is connected to fear. And so I know for me, sometimes when I'm having trouble falling asleep at night, I will lay on my back and just put one hand on my heart and one hand on my bladder and just breathe. And often I'll drift off to sleep just like that. A variation on this, if you have someone, again, who you're living with or with whom it's safe to touch, is I didn't include anything on this, but I'll just teach it to you, is what we call a heart sandwich, where you have a hand on the back of their heart and a hand on the front of their heart, and you hold their heart. And you can check in with them about their comfortability with touching in the front, because as women, we have breasts and you may not feel safe with someone having their hand there. You can put your own hand there and they can put a hand on your back. And then you can adjust the pressure to feel that sense of being held. It's such a powerful exercise. I use it all the time. And it, again, can pretty quickly bring a sense of comfort and calming. So let's click one more time, Alessandra. And another is, if you lean back and do this, and this doesn't work for everybody, but to have one hand on your forehead and one hand on the base of your neck. It's for those of you who are body related people, it's what we call the occipital area. And just let yourself lean back so that your shoulders don't have to, and your arms don't have to work that hard. I love doing this with some pillows propped up behind me in bed or on the couch. And you can just lean into that sense. And you can play with this. You may want a hand on your heart and on your forehead. You may want a hand on the back of your neck and on your heart. Whatever works for you. You can try it in a bunch of different ways. And you can do this with other people, right? This position in particular, having somebody hold my head like this, if they're standing behind me and having my head leaned into them, is so comforting. For me, that may not be comforting for other people. So again, you can play with it. So let's go on to the next slide, please. So this is just a sketch that I found on the internet. That's actually Peter Levine. Somebody did a drawing of it in the self-hug. And I have a list of references in the back at the end of this, and there is a video that you can click on to watch this, that Peter will teach you how to do it. So next slide, please. Okay, so I want to guide you through this. So when we have pent up energy in our nervous system, it can be helpful to, for lack of a better term, drain it. Or, I grew up in New York, and we used to, some of you, well, most of you are probably old enough to know the expression bleeding the radiator, right? When the pressure built up and we used to have to turn the knob and let the water drain out. I can't use that term here on the West Coast because nobody knows what the heck I'm talking about. I love that I'm in a crowd that knows what I'm talking about. So we can either imagine that the energy, and if you can click on the next piece of it, Alessandra, please. We can either imagine that there's an exit point in the body, or if you want to find an object outside of yourself, if that works better for you, maybe you have a big oak tree on your property, or maybe you want to send it out to Mother Earth or up to God or whomever, whatever it, whatever works for you, but somewhere for it to land so that it is outside of your system. So click again, please. And I'm going to walk you through this. So we're going to imagine, and you can close your eyes or leave them open, but I'm just going to guide you through this. We're going to imagine a magnet at the top of your head, right up here in your crown. And as we go through the rest of your body, I'm going to guide you through this. You're going to imagine, it's almost like a Roomba. It's going to be collecting any anxious energy in your system. So as it moves through your crown, through your forehead, and through the back of your head, just picking up any anxious energy, collecting it through the front of your face, and down into the back of the neck, around to the front of the neck. And we're gonna split that Roomba in two for a moment as it goes through the top of the shoulders and out through the upper part of the arms, down through the elbows and the forearms, and through each of your fingers, one at a time. And then back through the arms again, the part of the arm where you haven't collected the energy yet. And slowly moving back to the chest, where the Roomba will come together again, those two parts, continuing to collect the anxiety. And then allowing the Roomba, the magnet, to go through your chest and your upper back, through the scapula, through the shoulder blades, and then down through your heart, and slowly making its way through the belly and the organs there. The spleen and the pancreas and the kidneys and the adrenals and the bladder and the gut, the intestines, slowly making our way down through the belly and the low back, picking up any anxious energy. And then down through your butt and your groin. And again, splitting this into two as we go down through the front of the legs, the quadricep muscles, down through the front, through the knees, and down through the shins, past the ankles, through and past the ankles, down to the top of the feet, and through every toe, one at a time. And then back up through the heels and up the calves and up through the hamstrings, back to the groin area where the two Roombas come together again. And then I'm going to invite you to find an exit point in your system. It can be anywhere that you want. Could be the top of your head, could be the bottom of your feet, it could be your fingers, it could be out your heart. And just allow that collected energy to move out of your body and send it to the light or to God or to the tree or Mother Earth, whatever traditions work for you, whatever the location is, and just feel that energy draining out of your system. Just leaving the body. And I'll invite you to take a deep breath into the space that you've created. And one more deep breath into this space. There you go. And if your eyes are closed, you can open them and come back to the room. And just take a moment and notice what's different, if anything. And just let yourself be with that. And let me just see if anybody, can we undo the share screen, please? And let's see if anybody wants to comment on that.
It certainly was effective for me. I mean, I
Yeah.
literally nodded off.
Love it.
Feel very relaxed.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Anybody else want to comment?
My shoulders dropped, I think 3 inches. I didn't feel like they were up here, but
Yes.
throughout the whole thing, they just kind of lowered.
Yep. Beautiful. Yeah, the shoulders are really a barometer for how stressed I am, aren't they? I have friends who are massage therapists who will tell you 90% of the people who come to get massages, where do you want me to work today? My shoulders. Yeah, my shoulders and my neck. We hold so much. I mean, think of that expression, the weight of the world on my shoulders. So, yeah. All right, let's go back to the final slide, Alessandra. Please. Oh, the other thing I was going to say is it can help to shake out the arms and the legs too, particularly if you tend to be somebody who goes to flight as your coping mechanism, just to discharge the energy, literally shaking out your arms and your legs. So this may seem a little woo-woo for some of you, but I'm kind of 4 exits past woo-woo in my life. So I'm just going to share it with you for what it's worth. It can be really important to clear your space, particularly if there's a lot of activation in your household or in your body. Sage burning comes to us from the Native American tradition. It's also called smudging. And you can get it at any health food store. You can even order sage on Amazon or Palo Santo, which is actually used in a lot of rituals in the church, but it's also used in rituals. It's a South American, it literally means sacred stick. I should have some right here, but I don't. I can show it to you in a moment. But moving around the space with the windows open, the door open, even if it's just for a couple of minutes, just to clear the space. Or ringing a bell. I keep thinking of, what's that line? Every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings, right? So I've been told by people who kind of operate on a higher plane that there is actually a connection between angels and bells. And so that bell ringing kind of calls in that energy to help clear. You can visualize, right? If you feel like there's icky energy in your house, just use that visualization like the Roomba just to clear it out. And then I am a huge fan of diffusing. I have a couple of diffusers in my house, sage and cedar in particular. And again, this comes from the native tradition that will help clear energy in the house because we're discharging energy all the time. So let's clear it out. Click again, please. It's also really helpful to have some kind of ritual at the end of the day. I've done a lot of work with doctors and nurses and social workers who are just in it all day long with people. But even if you're a systems analyst or if you are taking care of children all day, right, to have some kind of ritual that isn't necessarily a couple of glasses of wine to just let the day go. And so that could be a prayer, it could be a meditation, it could be a walk, it can be something. Like I'm remembering years ago when I worked with a bunch of nurses, one of them talked about how as she would walk from the hospital into this large parking lot, because she worked at a large university hospital, with every step, she would imagine handing off another of her patients to God, so that the patient would be taken care of for the night and she could go home and have an evening with her family and not be bogged down by that. And then one more click. Also, if you're on Zoom a lot, washing your arms after the Zoom sessions with soap or with salt can be really, really helpful. Again, it moves the energy, it discharges the energy, particularly cool water. It helps kind of break that energetic bond and will discharge the energy. So again, that may be a little too woo-woo for some of you, but I figured I'd pass it on. It can't hurt. So, and then the last page, Alessandra, those are the resources.
What,
We're going to be
why
sharing this.
the arms with Zoom?
Um,
Why the arms with
yeah,
Zoom?
I heard you, Sue.
Not the hands, but the arms.
Well, both the hands and the arms. I'm sorry. The hands and the arm, I mean, again, this is getting a little woo-woo, but when we operate in the world, particularly connected to our creativity, our heart center is really important in that. And we give so much out of our hearts, and our heart energy actually flows down our arms and through our hands. And so clearing that energy so that I'm coming back to my own heart versus taking on other people's energy can be really helpful. Does that answer your question, Sue?
I guess so. The arms are connected to the heart energy, and it's
Exactly.
not a Zoom thing, it's a clearing
No,
thing.
it's a clearing thing. Yeah, but I think a colleague of mine suggested, particularly after Zoom, because so many therapists are on Zoom all day long with their clients, and to just clear that energy after each one. One of my
And
teachers,
mediators.
yeah, one of my teachers talks about washing my hands, and it has to be Morton salt. There's something about the iodine, washing my hands with Morton salt after every session I have, which I do. It just helps break it. So that's it. Any last questions or comments?
Okay,
Or I don't know,
thanks.
Alessandra, if you have something you want to wrap up with, but it's been my pleasure to be here with you guys today.
I just wanted to thank you very much, Jean. That was very helpful. I learned a lot. I'm sure everyone else did as well. So I really wanted to thank you for your time and thank everyone else for joining us this evening. If there are any last questions, otherwise, I will go ahead and send you guys the slides of the resources that Jean's provided as well.
Mm-hmm. And I would love to connect with Donna and Sue and figure out how we can contact each other, because I'm already friends with Lori on Facebook.
I thought it was terrific. I learned a lot.
Oh, good.